Any further? We'll give you the stat holidays. Okay, I move that the apology from Councillor Glanning be accepted and requests for leaves of absences from any of you be approved. By a seconder. Thank you, Gavin. All those in favour?
Aye.
Motion carried. Declarations of conflict of interest. Do we have any declarations? None at all. There are no matters lying on the table. No special announcements. Now, public forum. We've got 2 registered speakers, and are they available to come in from Queenstown?
Not right now, no.
Not right now?
They're just trying to get him sit down, so I'm struggling to get hold of anyone.
Okay. So we'll just go through the other bits of admin and then we might be able to come back. I think it might be the way to go. Confirmation of agenda. That the agenda be confirmed without addition or alteration. I hereby move. Do I have a seconder? Thank you, Barry. All those in favour?
Aye.
Motion carried. Confirmation of minutes of the last meeting held on the 16th of November 2023. I'll just note that we'll also be approving the PX, public excluded minutes, because it was just the last public excluded minutes was just a resolution to accept the previous minutes in public excluded.
As an amendment to the minutes on page 8.
Page 8?
Yes.
Oh yes, that you did not.
It's already been, so voted against the motion. As voted against the motion on page 8.
That amendment, yes. Any further?
Yes. Can I just mention one on page 7? It mentions the cross, it says crossway runway, it should be crosswind runway.
Okay. Okay. Any further amendments? Okay. I move that the minutes of the ordinary meeting of the Queenstown Lakes District Council held on 16th of November 2023 as amended be confirmed as a true and correct record. Do I have a seconder? Thank you, Melissa. All those in favour?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carried. Before we get to item 1. Sorry?
He's left.
Left. Okay. Unfortunate. But anyway, okay, so we have no public forum speakers this time. So moving on to item 1, page 18 of your papers, councillors. Queenstown Airport Corporation. Oh, Olivia.
Hello.
Just in time.
Whoa.
We'll waylay
Yeah,
item
perfect.
1 and we'll allow you to jump on it.
It's like close run thing, Olivia.
Well done.
What's that?
Close run thing.
You were
It's
Sandy.
taken me an hour and a half to get over the hill between the traffic and my thing. And I've left plenty of time for a 45-minute run. Anyway,
3 minutes, Olivia.
good morning, everybody.
Take a breath.
Take a
break. Yeah.
Well, good afternoon, everybody. And I just wanted to come and speak today because someone said to me the other day, Te Atamira is really a silent success. I thought, oh God, I feel like I talk about it all day long, but I wanted to come and articulate to you, our elected members, why we are an essential service to this community. And Ion Edgar in his last day shared insights about how philanthropy works and why investment in your community is necessary beyond just the numbers. And since that time, more than 100 generous community members have shown leadership and supported with millions of dollars worth of investment into arts and culture in this region to kickstart what is something that has been quite dysfunctional and really hidden in the tussocks. Today I share why a little organisation is an essential service. And it starts really with the Māori concept of toi o ngā rangi, that arts are not just one-dimensional, but inform every aspect of life, spirit, knowledge, well-being, wellness, and whakapapa to everybody. We have now 2,300 people each week coming to Te Atamira. Since January this year, we are home to more than 30 regular groups. We've been recognised nationally in the New Zealand Institute of Architects for public space. We've been a finalist for the Community Impact Award at the Chamber of Commerce. We've delivered and hosted 4 festivals, 14 exhibitions, with more than 300 visual artists in our community having a space, 1 carnival fundraiser, and further strengthened our board with 3 new very dynamic members. There is so much more. While a phenomenal success, connecting and supporting our community in all of its diversity, providing purpose-built safe spaces as promised, we now are focusing, as we have for 3 years, but and ongoing, as to how we keep our lights on as we go into 24-25. Simply put, Te Atamira needs support for its operations. We're in a critical phase where our many revenue streams at community rates don't cover the demand for service. We need your support. As you well know, every dollar that is invested at Te Atamira brings connection, innovation, and economic diversity to our region. What we pay out monthly to our artists, practitioners, and what we receive from parents of children who come for our holidays are simply just some of the incomings and outgoings. I would like to thank, and a huge thanks to you, our elected members. Many of you who are very familiar faces to Te Atamira have been part of its dynamic journey since day one. But I'd really like to strongly encourage you and your teams and management that to keep coming and seeing what we are doing, to keep being blown away every day by the effect that we're having on the community that you know and we love. So my parting gift for Christmas is this: as you're lying on the beach, lying by the lake, climbing in the hills, to think, art is the one true global language. It speaks to our need to reveal, to heal, and transform. It transcends our ordinary lives and let us imagine what is possible. 3 years ago, we dared to dream what was possible. A big vision shared by a number of people in our community, and you enabled that to happen. So my gift to you this Christmas is to review, consider that and think about why don't we have, continue this vision and support the vision into the future. That's it. I think there's time for questions. Glenn. But yeah, I can put that through.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Great.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for moving over.
Right, item 1. Queenstown Airport Corporation Statement of Expectations 2024.
Kia ora. Monday afternoon, councillors. Thank you. I'm happy to take the agenda as read. I do need to point out for the record a couple of changes or amendments to the SOE itself, so please bear with me. But anyone watching on the home does not have a copy of the changes. So in the document there is a new C, which is that QLDC expects QAC to reflect recommendations of the Audit, Risk and Finance Committee of the 12th of December. I'm not going to read through ad infinitum, but that's enough of a flag for anyone who is keen to understand that. There are 6 points that have been included. Under the new G, it states that QAC consult shareholders before any significant land acquisition or disposal. And under the new H, at the end of H, we have included the words and the objectives of the destination management plan. And those are the amendments to the SOE.
Questions, councillors? No question?
Sorry, probably just a couple of quick ones. So just to be clear where the change is eventuated from, so some of them from the Audit, Risk and Finance Committee outcomes, but also some feedback from council.
Yes, correct. 2 of them are based on direct feedback from Councillor Gladden.
And so I know that there's been some correspondence, are there any of her recommendations that haven't been accommodated in some way, or the reasons why they have or haven't?
I've circulated a response to Councillor Gladden's email. It's really for you as councillors to decide whether or not you accept my recommendation today, or whether you'd like to debate or discuss any of those points that we haven't included. I think the main thrust of what I was saying in response was that I feel the Audit, Risk and Finance recommendation did cover off in principle those points, those additional points, and we would be simply replicating those, although they're not in its act.
Okay, so just to cover some of that off briefly, so the issue around land acquisitions has been dealt with further down in G rather than in as a separate point, is that correct?
It is a separate point and it's G.
Under G, yeah,
Yeah.
that's correct. And that the, which was the other one she raised? Oh, the destination management plan issue, that's also being dealt with under H as well.
Yeah.
So while those things come back, they've actually been addressed in a different
Yes.
ways, is that right?
That's right.
Any other questions?
Just a quick one. Some of those things from the audit risk committee, I think it's sure you mentioned some of that have been passed by QAC.
Yes, QAC, look, we just brought them into the conversation as those were developed. And so Andrew from QAC attended the audit and risk meeting. And I had a further discussion yesterday with QAC, and they're entirely comfortable that they can manage those disclosures.
Let's make an additional comment to that. It's not part of the SOE because it doesn't need to be, but when you see the AFRC minutes, you'll see that meeting also noted and offered by the chair of QAC to meet with the Audit, Finance and Risk Committee as required. So, and that was accepted by the committee. So that's not technically part of the SOE because it doesn't need to be, but it's part of the AFRC resolutions.
Thank you.
Okay. Right. Any further questions?
I've got a comment, but not a question.
Oh, yeah, we'll get there. We've got the resolutions in front of us at the moment. Do we have a mover? Cool, thank you, Barry. And a seconder? Thank you, Lisa. I'll open up for discussion.
I would like to signal that I'd like to make an amendment to point 4. Make that note.
Go on.
Okay. So we've got note the contents of this report is 1, 2, approve the QAC statement of expectation for 2024, 3 is authorise the mayor to sign a letter, and 4 is agreed to produce the SOE 3 yearly in advance of the long-term plan process. I'd like to change 4 or amend 4 to agree to continue the status quo of delivering the SOE on an annual basis.
If I may clarify, and you may be going, I think I did respond to that. You could do it that way, or you could simply enable the councillors to take the vote, and if they don't separate out 4, vote on it separately. If it's not supported, then it will revert to the status quo.
So I'm sorry, I should have said I'd like to separate it out, but I wanted to write it in the affirmative. If I keep it as written, then councillors have to vote against it if they want to support me, which is
Yeah, but you can't.
challenging.
You can't put an amendment that's a direct opposite. It's
No.
before us.
Okay.
So I can vote on it by division if you.
Yeah. So that we don't overcomplicate it, then we just keep it the same.
Yes.
Vote by division. Vote by division.
Vote by division. Yeah.
If we were to delete 4 completely,
Yeah.
then we have the option of producing an SOE regardless, or not as a council. So that decision that remains. So we could actually just delete 4 completely, and then the council can year on year just decide whether it produces.
So the reason why this recommendation is before us is because there was commentary from councillors at a workshop wanting this to occur. But because it's the airport and it has a high level of public interest, that is why this decision is made in public.
Yes.
Yeah, and given that it is voluntary to produce an SOE anyway at any time, I think putting it in public makes it very clear on the process that this council will decide. So I have heard intent from councillors they'd like to discuss this, so that is why it's before us now.
That just sorry, got one clarification that isn't signalled in the SOE itself. The intent to do it 3 yearly, it's only in the resolution.
That's right.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Given that we've
Hang on.
Just to clarify as well, how would we bring it up each year if we vote this in now? So every 3 years, would it be just a majority?
Just to be a discussion amongst councillors.
Yeah, right. You raise that with the mayor.
You just raise it with the office of the mayor.
for me, given that we've developed such strong relationships with QAC, and I think we've really come such a long way. That's actually why I'd like to keep it annually, because I think it just creates that transparency, it holds space for us to have that discussion. It's good practice. So for me, it doesn't really increase workload, it's just good practice to maintain it and give that transparency to our community.
Okay, any further discussion?
I'll just add, and if we do it every 3 years, it does actually enable the incoming council to actually have that socialised when they come in on board.
Any further discussion?
Well, my view is that, I'm a supporter of doing 3 years. Once again, giving 1 year is very short. We could expect, if we expect to be changing every year, there's no consistency or certainty for the QAC board on what we're actually wanting to do. And
We don't have to change it.
Hang on.
and so, in addition to that, I accept the changes that we've got in the SOE from the Audit Risk Committee, Council Landing, and I understand we have to have checks and balances, but I think we've also got to keep in mind that what we ask for can be or could be seen to be undermining the confidence we have in a board that we actually appoint and appointed to govern QAC. So I think we've got to keep that in mind too. In particular, when you start looking at C1 there and some of the stuff, it's come from the Audit Risk Committee. But I just want to make that point. I just feel that we've got to be very careful. I think we should spend more time worrying about what we're expending money on rather than trying to oversee and watch what the QAC board's doing. And on that point, I support going to 3 yearly, saving expectation. Otherwise, we sit around every year. QAC will wonder what's coming down the line every year. And we have so much consultation and so much contact with QAC through the year. I just think it's an unnecessary step by its uncertain.
Yeah, my view, I mean, it was floated when we discussed it, whether or not it goes to 3 yearly, and I wasn't decided. I think on reflection since then, my preference would be to keep it as an annual process. The statement of expectation doesn't necessarily need to be rewritten and changed every year. It could just be reissued, or based on the standard, that we might keep the standard for 3 years and reissue it. Also, for the reasons that Esther's mentioned too, with the new and incoming council, every 3 years, the timing of the long-term plan doesn't necessarily give that council an opportunity to.
I wonder if I might clarify a point that I think is important. So there is an annual process that continues. You will continue to consider the draft SOI. That's where you get to actually give feedback and back into the QAC on an annual basis. So you are still undertaking a very transparent process for the community every year. So I just wanted to point that out.
I understand, but yeah, I mean, I think where I'm sitting is that I'd prefer to see at this point that we're at to retain that annual SOE.
Lisa?
I support Councillor Cox's comments and also refer to the Audit Risk and Finance recent mitigations that have been put around the risk and reporting of the master plan. I can see that we're going to have a lot of engagement with QAC over the delivery of the master plan, and looked at their commitment to reporting to us and also meeting with us through that other committee. And I suppose, having seen how quickly it's come back around in this year that we've reworked it, and the confidence in having the SOI review being the legal piece, my concern is that where do we sit in that having good governance without over-governing, I suppose. And I know it's an area that our community require a lot of transparency and accountability from us. And I think the willingness of QAC to work with Audit Risk and Finance through this last week has demonstrated to me how this is not seeking to recognise the level of accountability or transparency they have around their process. If anything, we've just upped it on them through the delivery of this master plan over the next period and ways that we can still achieve the same outcomes without necessarily doubling up on our scrutiny as well.
Lisa.
Just through the chair, I'm in favour of maintaining number 4, in favour of that. From my point of view, it's been good in this new council to see the new councillors come through and the role that they've made, the contribution that they've made. I guess with my history in council, then I've been dealing with this for a long time, so maybe I'm just a little bit tighter than others. But I know that there's checks and balances there that council have and councillors have at their disposal to if we have a concern. Once again, the outcomes can be solved pretty easily, so I'm in favour of number 4.
Just some brief comments. Look, like Councillor Berg, I've been on this journey for quite a while, and that was here when we actually introduced reusing the SOE as a tool to help shape that process. Look, I think we've come, as we've reflected on in a number of cases with master plan and various things, we've come such a long way in our relationship with the council, with the QAC, and I think that the involvement of the audit risk and finance and those additional checks and balances, I think, is a useful thing, because it is a big deal for us and our community, our airport. So I'm supportive of those additional checks and balances, and I support the option of doing an SOE on an annual basis that we can choose to exercise or not. So I'm not supportive of going to a default 3-year cycle. I think we can make a very easy and quick decision whether we need to use that tool on an annual basis, and that's the approach. Keeping in mind that we probably won't need to use it next year, for instance. So I could leave that option open and without going into a default cycle.
Any further comments? Barry, you're the mover, so you want to exercise your right to finish, or we can go to the vote?
Well, I'd just like to make a comment first. Whilst relatively new to the council table, I think the relationship with Queenstown Airport is very healthy. I think we have strong local representation around the QAC boardroom table. I fully support a three-yearly SOE. I think we've got to have faith and trust in those people that are running QAC. So I'll support the motion, but yes, as was original.
Okay, thank you, councillors. So,
I'm presuming you're going to put it in parts then?
yeah, I'll do the first 3 and then I'll do 4.
And I'm not sure whether you want to request a division, so that basically we'll put the votes.
Okay, sorry.
I'm so sorry, through you, your worship. Can I please add the words as amended on 2?
Yeah. Okay, as requested, we'll put the vote to division. We'll do resolutions of 1, 2 and 3, and just as noted by the officer, number 2 is to approve the Queenstown Airport Corporation Statement of Expectation 2024 as amended. So I'll put that to the vote. All those in favour?
Aye.
Against? None. Motion carried. Now number 4, that is agreed to produce a statement of expectation 3 yearly in advance of the long-term plan process, the next SOE being in the 26-27 financial year. All those in favour? All right.
So Jane.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
All those against? Motion carried. Thank you, councillors.
I don't want their vote recorded.
Yeah, why not?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Gavin White. That's why he.
Bartlett.
Bartlett and Smith.
Okay,
Yeah.
so, yeah.
Thank you. Okay, item 2, capital works 2023-24 December reforecast. Stuart, welcome.
Very nice to see that you removed that moustache.
Thank you for bringing up again.
Test this morning.
Probably.
Yeah. How are you, Stu?
Thank you. Good morning, council. Good afternoon, councillors. Today we are presenting the capital reforecast paper. There has been a late change to the paper that I'd like to speak to. And there was an email out this morning that reflected the changes. It's relatively minor, it only covers 2 lines of the spreadsheet, but I will distribute hard copies so people have got complete transparency because there's a lot of information on those sheets. Thank you. I'd like you to deal with the change first. So there is a change and it relates to the solid waste items that are on lines 55 and 56. Now,
What's they stand right at the very bottom?
and at the bottom of the schedules that you have is a copy of the preceding disclosure and the revised disclosure. So essentially what we're looking is we're not looking to defer as much of that solid waste budget as we had originally thought. We're actually retaining $3.4 million in this financial year, and that is to give effect to potential land purchase in relation to solid waste. So that is the only change, and it's reflected in that schedule. Now, because your recommendation relates to approving the changes within the schedule, this schedule replaces the schedule that we have in your agenda. So I just want to be clear about that. In terms of the other commentary on the paper, there is a significant amount of deferral of work that is included in this paper. Now, that deferral is required on 2 basic grounds. One is that with the carry forwards being added into the 23-24 on the planned budget, we've simply got too much capital expenditure to deliver for this year, over 200 million to 245 million. And secondly, when we have been looking at the long-term plan, the draft long-term plan, we've had to take a reprioritisation approach to our capital works. And as councillors will be aware, there are constraints, particularly in years 1 and 2 of that budget. And in order to align budgets, we have taken the same approach to projects that sit within the annual plan. So we are essentially proceeding with projects that we must do. Various ways of defining that, and any projects that don't fit that criteria, we have deferred, not cancelled, but we've deferred into the LTP. Councils were taken through that approach in August and September this year. So this is the paper that actually gives effect to those budget adjustments.
Thank you, Stu. Any questions, councillors? Go to you, Lyle.
Well, yeah, it's not a matter of going through line by line. I really understand everything you've said in the commentary. Just 2 questions of what we thought was happening this year. That does come in a little bit to under the capital program. But for example, line number 7, earn all the money from 516 Ladies Mile, but I thought I may not have, well, not through a formal resolution of council, but I thought we'd been asked to discuss that, and we were expecting some activity to demolish the building out there. and we're deferring all the money, so I presume nothing happens there in the meantime, is that correct? For this year?
Yeah, I can address that. So again, this has been discussed with councillors. We did bring this one back, and yes, while we did have a program which included demolition of the existing house. We have, again, as part of working out this exercise, we did park that, and we did have that conversation with councillors as Stu has outlined. So yes, that will be deferred into the next LTP.
So obviously, okay, there's no demolition this year. The next one then on the similar vein was Lum 99, Valentine Ponds site. I understood we'd had some discussion about experiencing clearance of the site and grassing it, and all. There was the expectation that some of that work might start this year, but you're taking all the money out of that. I presume that line is we cover that sort of activity. I was wondering, so the money we had in the annual plan to do work there is gone. So is that indicating obviously nothing's going to happen on that site?
There's a budget of 25,000 that's remaining. I'm not sure what that's
already spent. It's pretty much spent.
Well, yeah, well, in the scheme of things, I think 25 went down from 4 million to 25,000. So I understand the idea of deferring, but it's just really understanding what we were expecting as a community board and account over here was going to be some work done on that site this year. But obviously not. I know.
These have been submitted by the officers that are responsible for those budgets, so I can't answer all those points.
You know, I don't know if you want to address that. But I think again, coming back, yes, in essence, Lyle, yes, we have deferred, but again, we've outlined as part of the LTP development what the actual program does look like. So effectively, yes, we are deferring that money from this year. It doesn't fundamentally change the program that we have looking into the stage gate approach to developing the Valentine ponds.
Correct. Yeah, okay. It was just we've had discussions on actual putting together a plan of activity, and I thought that wasn't as I was going to be put on for you.
Through you, Chair, we've continued to engage with one or two of the the developers around some of the shared aspects of which you're a cross councillor. So those conversations have continued, but the deferral on the investment's been pushed out.
So that obviously won't happen. Okay. The line 22, I was a wee bit surprised. I thought so. That's just saying we had a plan done for a work out there. It was well over the budget. Then we asked for another plan within budget. So I thought the budget was 800. Well, on this slide, it's got 816,815. So
that project's still continuing.
Yeah, I see that. But I just don't understand from our point what it is to 1 minute with the plan was way over budget. Now we're looking at the new plans well under budget. So it's sort of understanding where it sits now on this. Is there a scope change or is it a design change, or are we just had a good deal?
Through you, Chair, I just don't have the list in front of me.
That's right.
I do have a response from Simon on that one. The project has been rescoped. Yep. And as priority is around the water sports bridge and track. And after doing that work, there was a surplus that's been allocated to another project that needs funding.
So the original, well, just taking a step back, the original thing started there was to do some work on the car park. Now we did that. We realised there was a scope change to do the path of the bridge, but there was also some work on the car park. So you're saying that that scope's changed? Sorry?
My understanding is there's still car park works going to get, unless it's changed in the last 2 weeks.
Just through you, Chair, adding to what officers have stated, we did rescope that, and we've had it back to the community board a number of times. As you'll be aware too, we have a commitment under a resource consent to progress some of the works on that site. So when we put that through some of the requirements of recent times with benchmarking, we've rescoped that in accordance with our priorities and the investment progress that project.
Right. Just a couple. The number 34, I just want to reiterate, I know we've still got some money there for the Wanga Airport. It's just that from a community points perspective, we're really keen to get some work on master plan started on that without waiting another year. I mentioned that we've got the money, hopefully they'll go towards some of that. Yeah, I was really. That's all I have on this. I think the only thing, what last one was, sorry, 88. Beacon Point Rescue Reservoir. There's a lot of, is that due to a scope change or something? Because there's a significant amount of extra budget required for screening fund required to shield the reservoir. Is that a new requirement, or is there if anybody can talk to that, or is that because we're talking a significant increase in
something that would have been done at a much later date at a much greater cost? So there was an opportunity to bring it forward and do it a lot sooner while they're doing existing works.
Was that part of the consent, was it? Or?
Conditional consent.
Okay. Yeah, it's just, we get nervous with the scope changes, but that's understanding that's definitely needed, because when you do a scope, well, not a scope change, when you're trying to apply and have all extra budget thrown in, this needs to even understand completely why that is. Thank you.
What?
Oh, yeah.
So sorry, just to clarify, Jeremy, that 1.5 is money brought forward into the year?
Well, it's
transferred
from Wanaka treatment, Wanaka water, the road and water supply, the Norgie Reservoir upgrade.
Oh, yeah. That should be money.
Yeah.
Relocation.
From what I understand, it's bringing that part of the project forward.
Yeah, well, they got to finish. They finished the reservoir.
Yeah, thank you. And look, thank you to Councillor Cox too, because many of those, or all the items that he's raised are ones that I've got on my list as well. And so, well, firstly, let me say, I understand the financial challenges that we have and the need to reduce capital expenditure. And I understand that basis of what we're doing. The problem I have is that we spent quite a lot of time developing an annual plan where we had strategic investments in place in order to, in some cases, progress detailed information for our long-term plan, and in some cases, stepping stones to latter parts of other projects. Now, I've got a list here and I won't read them all out. Lyle's raised some of them, but there's a lot of these items on here where we've kicked the can down the road, but in doing so, we've created complexities, particularly for our long-term plan. The Wanaka Airport Master Plan being one of them. We've got a lot of investment to make there. We don't really know for what, because we don't know the level of service. We don't know the future growth because we haven't done the master planning. We've got numbers, whether it's the QEC project or Ely Point, where those numbers aren't particularly robust in our long-term plan because we haven't progressed the planning work that we enabled under the annual plan in order to get to that point. So they're the types of challenges. There was another one, 59. I was pretty surprised to see that has been come back into the detention ponds on Albury Road. I don't know where that's come from, because I think, as last I heard, that was some way down the track, and that was the interdependencies of that were being realised already. So I'd be very surprised if that's
work that's actually been spent already.
It's been spent. Yeah. Okay, I can understand that further later on, but the through a number of situations since the approval of the annual plan, I've been told that money is no longer available, and until we make this decision today, the money is still there. It's in our annual plan. We've approved it as council, and decisions sort of appear to be preemptively made that that money is no longer available, and I have some trouble with that. I maintain that many of these projects that are now deferred by this CapEx reforecast could have and should have been progressed this year to advance our long-term planning and put us a bit on the back foot, so. What else?
Thank you. Option 3, it's being presented to us as well, which is to approve only some of the changes. I'm just wondering what that process may look like for us and what that may do. Obviously, it's going to increase the workload. Someone's put that option in front of us. What would that scenario look like?
It would probably mean that this paper would not be approved as it is, and you'd send us back to do work on. That's not the recommended option.
I think that option, well, whilst it's there for council to make, that not only affects, I suppose, this year's current budget, but it means a reworking of some of the draft budgets in the LTP as well, because they, as we've discussed with council on a number of occasions, have been predicated on some of these changes actually being accepted. So as we've built the new budget, we've taken those anticipated carry forwards or deferments into those budgets. So it needs a rework of the LTP budgets as well.
That's correct. So just for your information, through the part of our assumptions with the long-term plan, we've always got to look at current year and how much we are expending in the current year, which projects will be completed. So as you understand, with our programming of the draft long-term plan, we've made assumptions that some of the projects that are in the annual plan for this year will shift in terms of timing into the long-term plan. So it does affect both pieces of work.
Okay. Any further questions?
Well, sorry, just one more, sorry, Mr. Chair. I'm allow one more.
No.
I just sort of follow on. Just been the. Okay, right.
Mine's also just quite specific on the ladies and whole demolition thing as well, because if we sign this off, then nothing's going to happen for another 3 years. Is that correct?
Yeah, depends on what we do.
3 years, 2.5, it's been deferred out.
Okay, so just even the demolishing, nothing would happen.
I would say that through the passage of time, our budgets are not always delivered 100% as they are formed.
Yeah.
So if there are opportunities to bring work forward that councillors think needs to happen, future reforecasts will enable that, but it will mean that current programs would need to be changed to do that. So if we've got a delay in one area, it's possible to potentially bring projects forward in another, but it'll be subject to this sort of process.
When's the next one?
Every quarter. That's all. There's a question, by the way.
No, was it?
There was a question. Any further questions? The recommended resolutions are before you. Do I have a mover? Thank you, Gavin. I'll second. Open for discussion. Any discussion? I just want to point out that obviously it's a bit tough to defer projects, especially in the capital sense. And I appreciate the financial headwinds, as we keep getting told, that we're facing, but there's also what the market can actually deliver. I've been councillor previously for 3 years and now sitting as the mayor. I consistently see a market that cannot deliver in the Queenstown Lakes District anything anywhere near 200 million. I think what we've got here is probably a more pragmatic view of what can be delivered in this district, and looking forward over the 10 years, actually seeing some pretty pragmatic numbers when it comes to actual delivery. I think we're just going to have to wear this one, obviously, but I appreciate the work you've done, but also actually having a pragmatic view on what we can actually deliver and what the actual market can deliver. So with that, any further discussion? Yeah.
Yeah, I hear that, and I have a lot of experience in not achieving capital programs, but I do, some of the commentary we've had up to some of these projects, and particularly the Valentine Ponds one, I understood that was achievable. in the timeframe. So I understand moving stuff, so I'll look forward to the opportunity to possibly see some other project not do so well, we bring some money back.
I think we've all got that view, councillor Cox. Yeah, go.
Yeah, I sort of recommend moving up the 1.5 development plan stage 5 and the advocacy work that the community board's been doing behind that. But speaking of pragmatism, it's just great to see that message go through. So just regard that last point about the market. I mean, there's no surer way to ensure the market can't deliver than not having money available for it. So yeah, while I know that there are constraints within the market, there are things that or should have been progressed, but anyway, we'll leave it at that.
Okay, any further discussion? I'll put it to the vote. Numbers 1, 2, and 3. All those in favour? Aye. Against? Do you want that report? Against, motion carried. Thank you.
Thank you.
Item 3, page 39. Your council favourites. Did you do this one or?
Means in support.
Is it support? Isn't that lovely? Away you go.
I was his Uber driver over to Wellington today.
You didn't kick him out on the way through? Oh, right.
So good afternoon, everyone. This just report is to seek council approval under the Reserves Act for council infrastructure, which is underground services to the Lakeview subdivision. So hopefully fairly straightforward for you today.
Councillors, questions?
And the resolution point 3A, it says easement fees to be determined and paid in accordance with the council's easement policy. Who pays who? Who's paid by who and to whom?
Yes. A trick question, I assume. We
Effectively pay ourselves.
yeah, we probably would pay ourselves. Whether
No, there'll be a book transfer.
or not we would charge. Can I defer to property director?
No, you've been on, it's the easy up one, councillor, we would just do a book transfer.
Thank you.
I mean, I can either Richmond or Portland.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
Except for the admin cost.
Any further questions? Do I have a mover? Sure. Thank you, councillor Smith. Do I have a seconder? Thank you, Matt. All those in favour?
Aye.
Against? None. Motion carried. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jenny.
Item 4, page 49, Queenstown Lakes District Council submissions. Yeah, oh no.
Got Luke here.
Luke.
Luke was the principal author. I think all of you will have seen the material Luke said there. So,
Any further things to add?
I've got a little intro, but it's pretty straightforward, I think. So, yeah, 3 submissions that are in front of you today for retrospective approval. They're outlined in the report there, attached to the report as well. So, yeah, happy to take any questions.
Questions, councillors?
I had more of a query, but so we're looking at biodiversity credit system. Number 11, I think page 52.4. Just really interested to know what that point looks like in practice. Matarangi Māori people applied side by side with Western science.
It was.
So just yeah, more of a what does that look like?
Yeah, sure. So essentially what it's trying to emphasise, and feel free to take entry from yourself, councillor, is to demonstrate council's commitment to ensuring that any system that is developed to support a biodiversity credit system gives effect to the treaty and our partners. So yeah,
I'll expand on it a little. The reason I put that in is because I saw that Matarangi Māori was missing. So what that means is just looking at the wisdom of observational wisdom of Indigenous cultural knowledge of flora and fauna. So for biodiversity credits, it's particularly important because there's a lot of knowledge there which is as equal side by side to Western science. So if it's not part of it, it's not featured.
So I could, through Mr. Mayor, just reinforce that Kaitahu have an extensive program in terms of mapping and understanding the biophysical environment. So probably one of the more advanced areas in terms of having a database built out of their own Te Māori view, and it's, I think, in terms of where we're at in New Zealand today, actually having the opportunity to recognise that and incorporate those values are an important part of how we need to plan, or the government, or so society needs to plan to engage with our
Yeah. Any further questions? Do I have a mover? You, Mr. And a second, Matt. Any discussion?
No, just to acknowledge the thanks again for all the submissions. Yeah, you made really good points in them, and strongly and advocating for our needs as well. So thank you.
Thank you, councillor. Any further? Okay, I'll put it to the vote. All those in favour?
Aye.
Aye. Against? None. Motion carried. Thank you, Luke.
Thank you, Luke.
Item 5, Chief Executive's report. Before I hand over to you, Chief Executive, just on the paper itself, there's been a late change. 2 becomes 3, 3 becomes 4, and there is an addition of a new 2, which sits under the Audit, Finance and Risk Committee, which is agree that officers hold a workshop covering the compliance framework and policy and 3 lines of defence model, and that members of the AFRC and councillors are invited to that workshop.
So that change has been identified. In my view, it's actually not a necessary change, but equally it's not. It's because effectively it's not. The AFRC doesn't need to ask council's approval to do that. As with any committee, you can actually request and follow its own workshop procedures. Equally, because this one also extends to inviting councillors, there's been some suggestion that we should acknowledge it. So it's really there by way of acknowledgement rather than actually, in my view, technically requiring council approval.
Thank you.
So can you explain again what those changes are? 'Cause it's
I'm lost now.
So what it does, it adds to the audit, finance and risk an additional point, and it's really that, and that's a recommendation by the AFRC committee in October that reads that officers hold a workshop covering the compliance framework and policy, risk framework and policy, and 3 lines of defence model, and the members of the AFR committee and councillors be invited to that workshop. So it's very much a procedural matter rather than a decision-making matter for council.
So that's a new 2, and
And everything else flows from that.
And everything else is the same.
Everything else is the same. Yes, it's an additional. Anything further?
No, there's nothing further from me. I think it's fairly straightforward. You'll note that we have added the Audit, Finance and Risk Committee decisions under the new 5, previous 4, which basically outline the resolution that was made, which has now been incorporated into the SOE statement by your earlier decision. So it's just acknowledging that decision there. Normally we would report that a month later, but it's been an opportunity to do that now because we've got the transfer to draw the 2 together. Other than that, there's no other comments from them.
Okay.
Thank you. I just wanted to make a similar comment at the community board, but regarding the reserves vesting in Wanaka. I suppose just to continue to look at that, our reserve vestings are strategically minded. The first one is that we have an access reserve in North Lake that doesn't actually determine what it goes through to, what it joins to. And I raised that the other day, we don't know what, and I mean, fortunately, it should resolve itself, but we're making guesses as to what it links to in the future. The second one being the development of Tawier, and I would suggest that it's incredibly poor practice to have a 90-lot subdivision with a single in and out, and that we should be ensuring that connectivity and well-functioning urban environments are connected to their environment, to their surrounding community. And I think this is poor practice to have a 90-lot subdivision with a single road in. So I'll just make those points, and that we continue to look to strategically make those decisions as we do subdivisions.
Just to confirm that, but also acknowledging that the one that we're dealing with on the road, well, the very historic piece of land holding that ideally at some point, probably 20, 30 years ago, someone should have made provision for a connection. So
Okay, noted. Any further questions, comments? Do I have a mover? Thank you, Matt. And secondly, Barry. Any further comments? All those in favour? Aye. Against? None. Motion carried. Well, knocked that one off very well. Thank you, councillors. I declare the meeting closed.